Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as we deliver some good updates for you. Donnie van der Beek is back in training. You may have seen the pictures on the United Stand Twitter account this morning. We've also had a Dutch coach giving some quite decent insight into Erik Ten Hag. As well as that, you may see him on the thumbnail, GAK Post, the sporting director of PSV, has revealed what went on with GAK Post and Manchester United in the summer. And additionally to that, is he the signing that we may well go back in for in January? Who is Ten Hag's dream striker signing that he's going to be discussing over the next 2 weeks? I also want to talk a little bit about Jude Bellingham. There's a bit of an update on Jude Bellingham. And as we look ahead, 2 weeks today, we'll be playing the Manchester derby. That's going to be Manchester United's next game. Are Man City the indomitable force that people think they are? Should we be scared of Erling Haaland? Or are Manchester United well equipped to go there and getting a result? We'll talk about that a little bit later. And I'm presenting the forum tonight. I haven't done a forum for bloody ages. I'm presenting the forum tonight, which means I get to talk to Ricky, and I've not spoke to Ricky in ages, so lots to get into. Let's fly straight into it, though. We're going to start off with this GAK Post story. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not have seen it. Came out from the sporting director, Marcel Brand of PSV, basically saying that Cody Gakpo had a difficult preparation with us because he spoke to Manchester United. They only came in mid-August and didn't pick it up from there. So basically, he's been asked about what's going on with Gakpo, not necessarily had the best start to the season, and basically Marcel Brand saying, look, we feel that there's a little bit of disruption in Gakpo's personality, and potentially that's been caused because of the uncertainty at the end of the transfer window. As I remember, I think Southampton were looking at him as well, and maybe Leicester. So last couple of weeks of the transfer window, when you've been in pre-season for 6 weeks and your own domestic season has started, and then you get calls saying, we want you at Manchester United or Southampton, it can be disruptive. Sean, thank you for being a member for 3 months. So I think this leads into, who do we think Ten Hag's dream striker acquisition is going to be? And I think that Gakpo is an interesting one, because I don't know whether Gakpo was a backup option for Anthony, or whether Gakpo was the player that we were going to bring in to play off the left, play up front, and provide us with something different if Martial was injured like he is, or Ronaldo wasn't quite fit like he is. We're playing Marcus Rashford through the middle at the moment, and I don't feel that Marcus Rashford is a striker. So maybe this is an option that Ten Hag wanted. On the other hand, maybe he was the backup option to Anthony, and we ended up going for Anthony. It's difficult to know, and we probably won't really find out until we hit January, because it's certainly a deal we could go back in and do. He's an interesting profile of player. I think instantly many people would say, well, it's just another Eredivisie player. We need to move on from that. We need to start looking at scouting properly, looking across the globe and Europe, finding strikers who actually can come in. Some people would say, well, why don't we go for someone like Ivan Toney? I've even heard people mention people like Mitrovic. But Gakpo's under a long contract at PSV. I think his contract is 2026 or something like that. Even Alex says give McNeil more game time. I think Charlie McNeil is a fantastic prospect. I don't know how ready he is yet, because I've not really seen him play first team football. So it's difficult to say let's use McNeil as the new striker for United, because he may need a loan. I don't know. Until we start seeing him playing at the first team level, and hopefully we will see some glimpses of that over the coming weeks, it's very difficult to say that he's ready to play against people like Diaz and Stones and Van Dijk and Koulibaly and Silva. So yeah, we will have to wait and see with him. But I think regardless of what happens with Charlie McNeil or any other young striker that we have at the club, of which there are a few, we do need to buy a striker. Ronaldo is not going to get any younger and may well leave in the summer. He may well leave in January. Anthony Martial may remain injury prone. And for me, Marcus Rashford just isn't the sort of striker that you want. I think Marcus Rashford can play up front, but unless he's going to massively improve his overall game, I just think Marcus Rashford is a kick and run striker. And what I mean by that is ball over the top, sprint onto it and score. He's brilliant at that. I'd prefer he was doing that off the wing rather than going up front. So it'll be very interesting I suppose it opens up the question as to who do you think we'll go for in January anyway if we go for a striker. And I would file Cody Gakpo under the possibles, high possibles, because if that's true, and I think it is, that we've actually held conversations with Gakpo, and I think at the time that we did, there was a lot of us hoping that we would get Gakpo and Anthony. Obviously, we ended up with Anthony, and maybe Gakpo was the cheaper alternative to Anthony if we didn't get him. But I don't know whether I do believe that though, because if you think about it, when we were talking to Gakpo in the middle of August, we already knew that Anthony was striking and wanting to get out of Ajax. So maybe we wanted both. And logically, I hope we did want both, because Anthony is a left-footed right winger. That's all he is. He can play off the left. He's not a striker. I don't know why people ever thought that Anthony was a striker. He's not. Gakpo plays off the left with a right foot and can play through the middle. So they are very different profiles of player. If you'd bought Gakpo, I don't think you could play him on the right wing. So maybe we were looking at both. It's encouraging to know that we were actually officially talking to him, and potentially that's a deal we go back and do in January. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. We'll have to wait and see. Philip says he's not a striker. Yep, I think we've pretty much established that over the last 2 months, Philippe. I don't know whether you've been in a coma or something, but he certainly can play through the middle. And I think he has got the potential to be moulded into a striking option. If Rashford can do it, then Gakpo can definitely do it and has done it. But yeah, his best position is off the left-hand side, inverted. We need a striker. You're right, we need a striker. And if Gakpo was being brought in as a wing option, then yeah, it doesn't work. Why was there no Talk Sport show last night? Says Luke. There was. It just wasn't streamed on YouTube. I believe they're not streaming on YouTube at the moment because of the Queen. So yeah, it was live on YouTube. It was live on Talk Sport national radio, but it wasn't on YouTube. Gakpo is the poor man's Haaland, says Earth. Why does everything have to get compared to Haaland? I couldn't give a shit about Haaland. He plays for Man City. He's a fantastic striker. Why do we live in a world where people have to compare everything to something that's good? I don't get that. I think there is levels to football knowledge, and sometimes we do ourselves a massive disservice. I just don't get why everything has to be... like on Talk Sport last night, someone was on about Lloris and saying he's not world class and this, that and the other, he's not good enough. As if Spurs are going to go and buy anybody better than Lloris. Like, you deal with what you've got. We're not going to get Erling Haaland. We're not at that stage. Mark, are you ready for the masterpiece later? You're kicking off at midday, Zane, and I'm doing a watch-along on That's Football if you're talking about Brentford Arsenal. And Mark, what do you think of the shelf life is for Varan at this level, given his age and injury? Are we looking for his successor in the summer? He's 29. Look at the age of Thiago Silva, playing in the Premier League at, 36? I don't think there's a shelf life for Varan unless he has got an injury issue that I've always feared with Varan. I've always feared that there is an underlying issue there. But if there isn't and he can get over that, then he could play for many more years to come. I mean, he's a Rolls-Royce defender. I keep hearing about that. He's a Rolls-Royce defender, and he is. He's a Rolls-Royce defender. If he could stay fit for 80% of our season, we'll be fine. But I just don't know. I don't know with Varan, and I think we need. What I would say is we don't need a replacement for Varan. We need a replacement for Maguire. That's what we need. We need a centre-back that when Varan needs a rest, they come into the team, and we don't have that. I think it's so important. And look, I could name loads of players, loads of centre-backs. You know, people mentioned Vardiel the other day. I mean, he's left-footed, so he'd be more Martinez side. So you'd need we need a right-footed centre-back that can come in and do what Varan does, and that's very difficult to find. But Maguire can't do it. Maguire is slow compared to Varane's speed. Maguire is slow in relation to Varane's agility. He's slow in relation to Varane's ability to read the game. I don't think Maguire's passing is that bad compared to Varane. I think on that level they're okay. Aerial ability, they're pretty similar as well. But I hate using the analogy. No, not the analogy. I hate using the comparison. But if Van Dijk gets injured, you can play Konate, Matip or Gomez. If Varan or Martinez get injured, we've got to play Lindelof and Maguire. And they are just different centre-backs. They are just so different. And what you want in a team that's got a system is players that can play that system. So I don't think we need a Varan replacement. We need a Maguire replacement. Hi, Mark. I love your videos from Norway. Any options for a striker who can play for us? Really hard options out there, says B. I'm really hoping that Ten Hag has a striker that he thinks fits his system, because I think it's really difficult. You know, when you talk about Ten Hag's dream signing, striker signing, Maybe it is Gakpo. Maybe he sees a player in Gakpo that he can turn him from a winger into a striker. This happens all the time. The most high-profile one is probably Thierry Henry. Even Ronaldo went from a winger to a striker, so it happens a lot. Maybe we're about to see that happen with Rashford, whether we think it's possible or not. It wouldn't be... It's not... You're not turning a centre-back into a striker. You're turning a winger into a striker, and maybe he sees something in Gakpo. If Gakpo doesn't come to fruition and he literally was just a cheaper option to Antony and we got Antony, then I hope that there is a striker out there that Ten Hag already knows about that is saying, let's go and get them. Like a little bit what Rangnick tried to do with Adeyemi from Salzburg, but he was already agreeing to go to Dortmund. There's a young striker that, you know, you bring into the club and they could become something really, really special. If we aren't doing that, then we're in the world that we're all in, where we're all just going, what decent strikers are there out there that could come to Manchester United? And the reality is, at the moment, there isn't really loads. And remember, there are other clubs looking for them. Chelsea desperately want a new striker in the summer. So striker markets are always very competitive. So I think we're going to have to do a little bit of homework. I think we're going to need really good scouting. And I really hope they've got somebody up the sleeve. Because as much as I like Ivan Toney, I'm not convinced that you give Brentford 50, 60 million and he becomes a striker that's going to be on a par with, you know, Jesus or Harry Kane or, you know, any other top striker that exists in England or Europe. I think Ivan Toney's a very good striker. I don't know whether he would suit Manchester United. Having said that, Ten Hag is absolutely fantastic at getting the best out of players. Having said that, he's done that in the Eredivisie with people like Haller. So, yeah, it's a difficult one, and we do need one. Give me Bella Kotchup, says Lars. Look, I really like this, lads. I really like Bella Kotchup. I'll admit I didn't watch any of him in the Bundesliga because I don't really watch the Bundesliga. I find it quite boring. But I have seen him play 4 or 5 times now for Southampton. No, I tell a lie. I've watched him play properly 90 minutes for about 2 or 3 times this season, to be fair. And I've been very impressed with him. Right-sided centre-back as well. Exactly the sort of centre-back that you would bring to Manchester United. I guarantee he'll end up at Liverpool, though. I guarantee he'll get snapped up by Liverpool or Bayern Munich or Man City. You know, it's not the sort of signing we would do. But yeah, let's see how he develops, but yeah, he looks very, very, very good. Bellingham updates, as random viewer. So there was an article today I read. I don't think we've got a quote from it because it's quite a long article, but it was in the I think it was in the Manchester Evening News, and there was also something from last night about Liverpool. Liverpool maintain that they are very. So many Liverpool fans are obsessed with the Bellingham deal and feel that they didn't buy anybody this summer in their midfield because they're going to get Bellingham next year. Now, they may well be right. They may very well be right. But it does seem a little bit odd that they would be sat here in September saying that Jude Bellingham will be a Liverpool player next summer, because I can't imagine that Jude Bellingham and Dortmund have agreed a deal with Liverpool now. If he plays in the World Cup, his value could go up by 50%. If he plays well this season, his value could go up even more. So I don't see... I'm not saying he's not going to be a Liverpool player, but there's absolutely no logic to the fact that it's a done deal or anything like that. Maybe Bellingham has expressed an interest in going to Liverpool and playing for Jurgen Klopp, but what if Liverpool have a bad season and Jurgen Klopp says, that's it, I've had enough? He's not a Liverpool fan. I don't think Bellingham to Liverpool is in any means guaranteed, likely or done. I don't. It doesn't mean he won't go to Liverpool. Of course, Liverpool are a very attractive proposition for any player. But I don't believe that... I still think the Bellingham race is open, whether you're Real Madrid, whether you're Manchester City, whether you're Chelsea, whether you're Barcelona, whether you're Bayern Munich. I think the Bellingham race is open. The question is, to many people, could Manchester United get into that race? I don't know whether Man United would want to get in that race. I don't know whether Ten Hag would want to get in that race. I don't know. I would. I'm sure many of you would. But the hint with... And I'll go back to the article in the Manchester Evening News, which is absolutely correct. The hint with Jude Bellingham is this. He is going to go to a club where he can develop his career. He is going to go to a club where it's a step up from Borussia Dortmund. Now, Dortmund will not win the Bundesliga. They won't. But they will play in the Champions League every year. Do Manchester United play in the Champions League every year? No. Is Manchester United a step up from Borussia Dortmund? Well, it is in the size of the club and its status, but is it a step up in the development of your career? And if you look at the last few years, it's not. So if Manchester United want to buy players like Jude Bellingham, they have to provide the platform for it to be a step up. because he will have offers from Real Madrid. He will have offers from Man City and Liverpool. And they can say, we challenge for the title every year and we challenge for the Champions League. Manchester United can say, we'll pay you more wages than them, but we can't challenge for the title and we don't always play in the Champions League. So that is the barrier that Manchester United need to hurdle if they want to buy players like Jude Bellingham or Erling Haaland or anyone else that we've been linked to, that we actually spoke to, and they refused to come to us a couple of years ago. So, look, do I think Jude Bellingham's coming to Manchester United? I think there's a very low chance of that happening right now. If come March we're comfortably in the top 4 playing good football and Ten Hag is getting the plaudits I think he will get, then suddenly we might become a real attractive proposition. Now, some would say, well, even if you qualify for the Champions League next year, it doesn't mean you'll do it the year after, so it's a risk for Bellingham. But the risk is somewhat diluted if you are showing that you are one of the better teams in the Premier League, and that is style of football. That is the way we play. What we need to do at Manchester United is be in the Champions League every year, start being more competitive, but also be attractive in relation to player development. Like Jadon Sancho will know Jude Bellingham. And if Jadon Sancho, in his second year at United, eclipses his first year, and then he's saying to Jude Bellingham, you know what, Ten Hag's brilliant, I love it, then those sort of things start to help you out. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Bellingham. But I wouldn't be getting too excited about it if I was a Liverpool fan. We'll have to wait and see what happens with it. Talking about midfielders, though, I mentioned it at the start of the show. Donnie van der Beek back in training yesterday. You can see the pictures on the United Stand Twitter at United Stand MUFC. Give it a retweet. He was back in training yesterday. The picture evidence is there. We knew he was close. We knew he was back close to being fit. Really unfortunate about Donnie. In fact, I've got a video coming up about Donnie van der Beek this week, which I think you'll really enjoy, on why I think he can be a real big player for Manchester United and why I think he will be given an opportunity. Obviously, we know he would have got that opportunity against Sociedad, where we played Fred as a cam. I think Donnie would have started that game, but he was injured. But he's back in training now. We all know we've got 9 games in October. You know, get your painting done over the international break, because, you know, you'll have to tell friends and family and everybody else that you're busy in October, because we're going to be playing a game every 3 or 4 days. And this is where Donnie van der Beek needs to be fit. So if he's back in training yesterday, he's not on international duty with the Dutch, of course. He won't be going to the World Cup with the Dutch. So Donnie van der Beek has just got to take steps in his career now. And what he's got to do over the next 2 weeks is get fit. Get himself fit and ready. You'll start on the bench. You know you're going to be on the bench. In fact, the first thing is to get on the bench, isn't it? Get yourself on the bench. Get yourself ready. First European game after the international break is on the Thursday after Man City, where we play the Cypriot team. Get yourself in the starting lineup. Have a good 90 minutes. Back on the bench for Everton. Maybe get on for 20 minutes. Thursday play again. Do really well. And then just wait for your opportunity in the first team when Eriksen or Bruno are playing badly, or they get injured, and then take your chance. It's the same for a lot of players, but for Donnie, it's really, really important. So good to have him back. And of course, he can go for it, because once we hit the start of November, he gets another 6 weeks off, 5 weeks off before we come back for Christmas, and another period. So he's got, hopefully Donnie's in the right mindset, confidence. He's got the manager that will look after him, and it's good to see him back, because we talk about midfielders. We can't buy midfielders until the summer or January anyway, but we have got Donnie, and let's hope he can do something. Tumbleweed says, good morning, Mark. Weekend away, never miss a show. Ivan is good, but we should only pay 45 million. West Ham and Everton predictions, as Tumbleweed. What was Donnie's injury? I don't know what Donnie's injury was, David. I'm tempted to say groin issue, but I don't know. I don't really know what it was. Mark says Declan Rice is garbage, gives the ball away. I don't think Declan Rice will be an option for Manchester United, really. Brentford versus Arsenal prediction, says Mitchie. Well, I'm doing a watch along at 12 o'clock. It's a 12 o'clock kickoff, so tune into That's Football, where we'll continue the chat. Everton against West Ham. I don't know. I didn't even know they were playing. I don't even know where they're playing at. So I'll say a 1-1 draw. Daniel says that Donnie has the talent. He just needs to show it. Well, I want to talk a little bit. It won't be a feature section on the forum tonight, when we've got Ricky on. But I do want to talk about it with Ricky, because I know he's a fan of Donnie. So we'll get into that. And I really want to talk about his obsession with Scott McTominay as well. I think there's a good conversation to have there. SL Wex, who's a member of the club, and Mark Searles as well. Shout out to you. You can see your badges next to your name if you remember. He says, what about Fred? I think Fred's in a different situation. I don't see... I see Fred as a squad player now. I think last season we probably saw him as a first teamer. I don't see how Fred gets into this team anymore. If he's happy to stay at Manchester United, I'm happy to have Fred on the bench. I think he will get used. 5 subs, playing a game every 3 days. He will start games. But if you think about it, it's McTominay or Casemiro, and then it's Eriksen and Bruno. So Fred is a bench option. He's not a starter. He's not going to dislodge Eriksen if he's fit. He's not going to play as a cam, as we've seen. And he's not ahead of McTominay or Casemiro. So Fred's place in the team, he basically has become a bench player now, which is fine. It's whether he's happy to do that. And also, his contract's up in the next sort of few months. It's up in the summer with an option of another year. So I would say let's keep Fred for as long as we can and maybe not renew his contract. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with Fred, because Fred's very much in the same situation as Lindelof, isn't he? You know, you are a very valuable member of the squad, but you are not starting games, and it's up to you as to what you want to do about that. Sunday mentioned Victor Osimhen. I think he's definitely a player to keep an eye on. I would say straight away, you're not signing Victor Osimhen and Jude Bellingham next summer, because both of them are going to cost you 100 million quid. So Victor Osimhen will cost £100 million, and it's whether he's worth that. I would like him at Manchester United. I think he's got a lot of attributes to do well at Manchester United, but Napoli are no fools, and they spent a lot of money on Osimhen. I think they spent 70 million euros maybe, and it was only a year or two ago. So they're going to one's 100 million, and that's the thing. I like Osimhen. What I really want to say about the striking position is, I hope everybody wants to play up front. We know this. The universal lesson in football is that everyone wants to be a striker. So the majority want to be a striker. There will be another Erling Haaland. I feel like Yoda. There is another. There is another. There is another. There is another, Luke. Don't worry about Erling Haaland. There is another. I sound like a royal. Yoda. There is another. I'll stop doing that. Yeah, there will be another top striker coming through, and it's whether you want to go for Osimhen for 100 million or whether you want to get the next big thing. And what I think Man United need to start doing is we need to start getting the next big thing. Like Haaland, we knew about Haaland at Molde, Salzburg and Dortmund, and we didn't get him. There will be another striker coming through, and I think that's what United need to do here. We need to start getting the next ones coming through. Reg, thank you very much for your chat, and never come back. You're gone. We need a better striker than Ivan Toney. We're Manchester United. We're Manchester United, says Dylan. We're Manchester United. Next, Haaland is Sesko, says Annie. And what do you think about Sesko, says JJ. What? You know what? It's early in the morning. Hasn't Sesko gone to Leipzig? Yeah. So we're not going to get Sesko. We missed out on him. I'm getting him mixed up with that Kladsic who went to Wolves. How about we try and get Mukoko from Dortmund, says MUFC. And you know what? Both very good suggestions, and both actually show what we should be doing. When you think about Dortmund with Adeyemi and you think about Leipzig with Sesko, we've got to get on this train better. There are good strikers out there, and we've got to get hold of them, because otherwise we're going to get... One thing that Man United are stuck doing, and we've seen it time and time again, we get stuck paying a lot of money for players, and there's a risk to that, because one, it's huge money, and two, it's huge risk. We need to start picking up some of these players a little bit earlier, and I think that's something that Manchester United have got to be much, much, much better at doing, because the risk is less, and you get them earlier and not having to pay loads and loads of money. There's a few comments come out about Ten Hag as well from some Dutch coaches that I wanted to read, because it just gives you a bit of insight. So this was from the Telegraph. Dutch coach Fop de Haan says, with Ten Hag, people often think, what kind of a man is that? But when he starts talking about football, you immediately know, wait a minute, this guy knows what he wants. He really has an idea and makes it trainable. He makes demands, is very clear about them, and seems completely reliable in the things he wants to do and does. That's why he's lasted so long at clubs. Ten Hag has also noticed where football is heading. The game in small spaces and the extremely physical, who are quick and skillful and can run. You have to be able to run, he once said, and that's very, very true. And you have to have guts. So that's just a bit of an insight into Ten Hag observations from a Dutch coach speaking to the Telegraph. But it's an insight for us as fans as well into the obsessive nature of Ten Hag and his analytical approach and what the core principle are about what he wants. You know, he wants the guts. He wants the tight space football. He wants the energy, run. And this is something that, you know, you're not going to get from these United players in the space of a few weeks or months. It's going to take time to develop the players that can do it and move the players on that can't do it, and then bring the players in that can do it and develop them as well, which is why I think patience and roller coaster football is what we should be expecting at Manchester United. We are on the moment where we're going up. We've won 5 games, really, basically, haven't we? 4 in a row in the Premier League. Obviously, Sociedad was disappointing, but it was referee-based. Next month, what's going to happen? He's building trust, says Dahan on Ten Hag. Trust is very important. Then you also give that to other teammates. Then you dare and you don't see an enemy behind every tree, which is something I really liked from that comment, really. You know, building trust and an enemy behind every tree. Manchester United last season had so many enemies, they built a forest behind trees. It was just ridiculous. And, you know, there is a trust building. And I think the one area of the pitch that symbolises Erik Ten Hag at the moment is the defence, because the defence is in harmony, communicating, happy, and clearly, you know, happy with Ten Hag. Ollie to Brighton, says Josh, signs McTominay and Fred. I tell you what, if Brighton go for Solskjaer, they're crazy. They're absolutely crazy. What was this tease on Twitter about? Give us a hint, Mark, says Ozzy. Yeah, as I said, it's got nothing to do with Manchester United. It's got nothing to do with the Glazers. It's something that I'm quite excited about that I will reveal when I can reveal it. But it's nothing to do with the Glazers or anything like that. Another Dutch manager has been speaking about Ten Hag as well. His name is Ad de Mos. I don't know who it is. He made a good decision after the 2 defeats. He sent them into the forest the old-fashioned way, made them run 13 kilometres. You can only do that once, and then you have to win your next game, of course, and that's what he did. In that way, he has become a member of the team. Most trainers keep on watching or drive behind them in the car, but he ran with them, and that way he scored points. Ten Hag is a very innovative trainer, very modern, just like Alfred Schroeder. He picked up many things from Pep Guardiola at Bayern Munich. He tested those methods at Ajax, and it works at Ajax, and it should also work at Manchester United. So just a few interesting insights into Erik Ten Hag there from Dutch coaches who obviously know a little bit about him. And it has been a very short period in charge of Manchester United for Erik Ten Hag. Excuse me. It has been a very short period, but I almost feel it's been a long period in many ways. You know, you had the highs of the pre-season. The pre-season football was 70% possession and really, exciting. Then we had the lows of Brentford and Brighton where that pre-season just fell off a cliff. And then we've had the determination, response, get down to work, that defence, and we've built the season back again. And now it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in October. JF says, I see Vlahovic moving if Juventus don't get top 6. I believe they won't. He would suit us down to the ground. Thoughts? It's a very good chat from super chat from JFVA, who's also a member as well. I like Vlahovic. I think Arsenal were very close to getting him in January. I could see Vlahovic at Chelsea. I could really see him there. I can't see him at Manchester United. And, sometimes you get a feel about a signing. I can see, I know he might not come to the Premier League, but I could see him at Chelsea next summer. I think that's the sort of signing Chelsea would probably do. Would I like him at Manchester United? Yes. I think he's exactly the profile of striker that you want. What Manchester United need is... And it's interesting, actually, when you talk about Erling Haaland, and you never see the press talking about this because, it's not Ronaldo and it's not Manchester United. And press is the good word. Erling Haaland doesn't press much because he doesn't have to. Because Man City have so much of the ball, there's not a lot of pressing from the front. They press as a team and they do press from the front, but they don't do a lot of pressing because they have the ball so much. And I think that what Man United need is that in the early days, we need a striker that can work hard. We definitely do need that because when we don't have 70% possession at the moment. So the press from the front and the striker is really important. And You know, whether Rashford can do it, whether Martial can do it, whether Ronaldo can do it is all up for debate. Some do it better than others. Some get criticised for not doing it when I think they do it better than others. But ultimately, we want to get to a point where we can have a striker that is just completely about scoring goals. Obviously, you've got to put a work rate in, but I think what we do need is energy up front. We need a striker who can score goals in the penalty box but has lots of energy. I don't know whether it's interesting because Ronaldo's 37, so that's always going to be a thing. And has he ever really been a player that, you know, relentlessly presses at the front? I think he can do it, but I don't think it's his strong point. Marcus Rashford runs around a lot, but I don't think he's particularly energetic in his press. I just think he moves quickly. And because he'll sprint from one striker to another one, people will go, "Oh, that's a great press." But does he do it for 10 minutes? No, he doesn't. You know, look him in the second half in some of the games this season. He's been blowing out his arse. So I don't think it suits Rashford's style. And Martial, obviously, we don't see him enough. So I think we do need a striker that, and also Rashford is not a penalty box striker, and Martial isn't particularly good in the air either. So we need a different. What I'm trying to say is we need a different profile of striker. In Rashford, we've got the quick player. In Ronaldo, we've got the penalty box striker. And in Martial, we've got the all-rounder who can link up the play, hold up the play. We need somebody who is a penalty box striker who is also very energetic. And whether we can turn Martial into that, whether we can turn Rashford into that, we're not going to turn Ronaldo into that. That's what we need. Find it. Great show, Mark. Just like to say thank you for years. May it continue, says Ray. Hope you're well, Ray. 42 months Ray's been a member, so let's give a shout out to Ray there. Hope you have a good Sunday, Ray. Latoro Martinez says Nicola. Gakpo is good, but he's not a proper number 9, and we need a proper number 9. I think that's a very fair observation, Monagit. I would say no to Gakpo. I just don't think the player is good enough, says Andreas. Well, look, as I said at the start of the show, the director or sporting director of PSV, Marcel Brand, has come out and said that Manchester United basically unsettled Gakpo in the last couple of weeks of the August transfer window. Was he a cheap alternative to Antony? It makes sense on one level, but on the other it doesn't, because they're opposite players. One's very left-footed, one's very right-footed. Maybe we go back in for Gakpo in January. Maybe that's not the right thing to do. Ideally, I'd like Manchester United to buy a striker who's very good in the air, who's a very good penalty box striker, and who is a very energetic striker, who is about 22. That would be my profile list to my scouts. Go and give me a list of players who fall into that category. Off the top of my head, it's very difficult. There's one or two, but they're not obtainable because they're already going to other clubs or have just signed for other clubs. People mention Osimhen, 100 million straight away. So it's difficult. I don't want to spend 100 million either. What makes you think Chelsea would still go for a player like Vlahovic? Did Todd Bowley retain Roman Abramovich recruitment team, says SKY? No, he didn't. But Tammy Abraham Evil says he didn't. But if you're looking for a top-class striker next summer and Vlahovic is leaving Juventus, then that would be an option for Chelsea. It should be an option for Manchester United. Leao at AC Milan is interesting. I think his contract's up in 2024. So he needs a new contract at Milan, or he's going to move very soon. So yeah, there is a player there. So there are lots of players to look at. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with it all. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for tuning in this morning. Thanks to the members. If you want to do that, click the join button. Lots of you watching the David De Gea Henderson video. I'm live in just over an hour on That's Football for Brentford versus Arsenal. It's a midday kickoff. I'm sure many of you will be watching it. So if you want to continue the football chat, get yourself over to That's Football for midday. We're back at 7 o'clock tonight with the Fan Forum, and I'm presenting, so I'm excited about this tonight. We've got Ricky on, I think Adam's on, I don't know who the third person is. I'm presenting it, so I will tweet out a little bit later of topics that you might want me to cover, and I'll write a few down to get into Ricky, because I want to get your thoughts tonight, because it's not very often I get to be on the same show with Ricky, so I'm looking forward to that. 7 o'clock tonight on the Fan Forum. Lovely stuff. But thanks everyone for watching this morning. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe, and I'll be on That's Football in about an hour's time for Brentford against Arsenal. Let's hope Brentford can get a result, hey? I'm not so confident, but let's see. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll speak to you all in a bit.